Welcome to Conversations with Plastics News. I'm Joe Pryweller, Conference Director with Plastics News. And with me today is Jeff Wooster, Global Sustainability Leader with Dow Chemical Company, and also the President of Ameripen. Jeff, welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here today, Joe.
Let's start off by talking a little bit about some of Ameripen's work. I know that a lot of what you do is improving media and public perceptions of plastics as a sustainable material. How's that going at the moment? Are perceptions changing about plastics as a sustainable resin and as something that people see of as recyclable, as something that can be usable in the industry?
Well, we think it is changing, Joe. We think that we're doing an effective job of reaching our target audience, which is the key people in our value chain and the key people in government, organizations, and trade associations that have an influence on policy, that have an influence on what we decide to do about plastics and why we would want to use plastics or why we might not want to use plastics. The key thing for Ameripen really is two focuses. One is to improve the recovery of all types of packaging materials. So it's a packaging organization that crosses the value chain and stretches along the supply chain. So it's all materials and it's all types of packaging, and it's everybody from raw material producers to recyclers. So we try to increase the recovery because we know that's so important to consumers. It's about what consumers think is important, and then that translates to what the retailers think is important and the brand owners think is important.
Sure.
And so we work on that, and we try to educate people on the value of packaging, much in the same way that Dow tries to educate people on the value of plastics.
Okay.
So we understand that sustainability is important, but people don't understand the details.
Good.
And so if we work with them to educate them, to provide the technical information that they need to make the right kind of scientific decisions, the right kind of business decisions, then we think the industry will be more successful.
I'm sure there's a long way to go with it, though, with some of the media coverage out there, but you seeing progress in that area?
We are seeing progress, so we're starting to see more positive articles. We're seeing different companies take different initiatives to help promote the value of packaging and the value of plastics, to help people understand, from a layman terms, really why it's important. So Dow's undertaken several initiatives in that regard. Several of the other Ameripen members have taken initiatives in that regard. So we've had good success in helping to spread the word. There's still lots of work to do. Of course, the popular media tends to focus on the negatives,
Sure.
and it's our job to bring them good stories about the positives. So we really appreciate what Plastics News does in bringing the good news about plastics to the world and sharing why plastics is such a good material for sustainability when people think just the opposite.
Excellent. Let's talk about some specifics that are going on in the industry and something to do with both Dow and Ameripen. There's an energy bag pilot program I know that Dow is working with, and that's to collect non-recyclable materials and reuse that. And I guess there's some tests going on in some ways. Why don't you explain the program a little bit and what the testing has shown with this program?
Sure. So in the summer of last year, we spent 3 months collecting otherwise non-recyclable plastics from the city of Citrus Heights, California.
Okay.
So we gave the residents special purple bags, which we called the energy bag. And we asked them to put all of their items that would normally not be eligible for the recycling bin into the plastic bag. Okay. And then we collected those as part of the regular recycling program. So they took the bags, they put them in their regular recycling cart, wheeled them out to the curb every other week, and Republic Services, our partner in the program, collected the bags, took them to their material recovery facility at Newbie Island, separated them. We sent them to Agilix, another partner in the program, and converted them into oil.
The fuel oil, right?
That's right.
What did the testing show? Was it a usable, viable energy material from this? Did it work well?
Yes, so the results were very encouraging. We're very excited that we were able to show a number of things that we set out to demonstrate with the program. So we were able to show first that the consumers knew what to put in the bags. We told them to put in any non-recyclable plastic, and we collected all kinds of different bags and plastic items with the program. We then were able to determine that it was possible to get the bags into the carts, from the carts to the trucks, from the trucks to the transfer station, from the transfer station to the MRF, and from the MRF to Agilix's facility, where the plastics were shredded, fed into Agilix pyrolysis plant, and then we were able, very importantly, to convert them into usable oil that then went to a refinery to be made into other products.
Interesting.
So we were able to show that all those parts of the process worked effectively and successfully without causing harm to the rest of the recycling infrastructure, without being too difficult for the MRF or the recycler to implement. And it was something that the consumer was able to do. So we learned a lot from the program.
Great.
Next steps.
Are there any next steps? I was going to ask you that. What's coming up with that?
Ask about next steps.
Exactly.
So we're talking with a number of different cities and different partners now about possibilities for scaling up the project further. We still recognize that we have a lot of additional marketing work to do to help people understand the full value of turning non-recycled plastics into a usable commodity like oil.
Right.
So instead of burying them in the ground in a landfill, we're actually making them into a usable product, which we think is very important for closing that loop of recovery and making sure that we're getting the maximum value from the resources that we produce. So it's really about extracting the maximum value from our resources. Plastics are so efficient when we make them and use them that we get a huge sustainability benefit from the fact that they're lightweight, they're efficient, they're safe, they protect food from spoiling, they protect consumer goods from being damaged, but we still need something to do with them when the consumer's done with them. And so through the Energy Bag program, we've shown that we have additional options for materials that can't be mechanically recycled, important options, we think, in helping improve the overall sustainability performance for our material.
Terrific. Let's talk a little bit about food waste. I know food waste has been a major issue for the last couple of years, and I know Ameripan has written that Americans throw away 36 million tons of food a year. That's quite a lot. What can the plastics and packaging industry do in this area to eliminate waste? Are there any efforts underway in this area that you can talk about?
Well, many companies that are engaged in the food packaging space are already delivering solutions that help reduce food waste. So if I can take a product like lunch meat that I used to buy behind the deli counter, wrap in wax paper, and I'd take home and it'd last for a few days in my refrigerator. If I can move that product to a pre-packaged format where it's inside a plastic barrier package that lasts for 1 or 2 or 3 months in my refrigerator, I can now stock up at the grocery store. When I get that item home, I can then keep it in my refrigerator until I'm ready to eat it. So I virtually have eliminated any food waste due to that particular item going bad. So that's an example of something that the industry is already doing. Collectively, though, what we need to do is we need to educate people on the importance of food waste and how plastic packaging can reduce food waste. We waste about a third of the food produced on this planet.
A third of the planet. That's quite a bit.
Enough food for 2 billion people.
Wow.
Enough food for 2 billion people. So there's about 1 billion people on the planet that don't get enough nourishment. They're either deficient in calories or some kind of nutrient. But we actually throw away enough food for 2 billion people. So it's an incredible drain on the resources of our planet to be throwing all this food into the landfill. We have to use the land to grow the food, the fertilizer, the water, the tractors, the processing equipment, the distribution and supply chain. It's a huge amount of resources that are wasted that really has a negative impact on the environment. By investing a little bit of resource in the plastic packaging and other packaging for these food items, we can save many times over the amount of resources that we're using for the packaging.
Wow, a lot just starting with that. I know Ameripan also put out a report recently on e-commerce and the use of that in packaging, the role of recyclability and waste with some of that too. Obviously all of us are using Amazon, many other sites to order online these days, and I imagine that's only going to increase exponentially in the future. What can we do to reduce the waste that comes from that, specifically in the plastics area as we're moving more to e-commerce?
Well, as an individual consumer, what you can do is make sure that you take the plastic that you get in those packages and you put them in the appropriate recycling system. So for the corrugated boxes, what some people call cardboard, that can generally go into the curbside systems of most homes. Many of the plastic films, like the pillow packs that are inside those Amazon packs, or the stretch wrap or shrink wrap that might be around a bundle of books, those products typically are polyethylene, and those can go in the recycling system at your grocery store. So at the front of your grocery store, you have a recycling bin that is probably labeled for shopping bags. But that bin can actually take any film that's made from polyethylene. So you can put things like paper towel over wrap and case wrap from bottled water, and any kind of film that's made just from polyethylene. And that includes the 2 examples that I mentioned from the e-commerce delivery channel. And you can put those in there together. So is it more a matter of education at this point for consumers? It's a matter of education, it is. So the Sustainable Packaging Coalition and the American Chemistry Council's Flexible Film Recycling Group are actually partnering together to help educate people, to put new signage on the bins, to tell people what they can put in. And through the SPC's label, their How to Recycle label, they're helping educate people to teach them this is an item that can go in to the retail collection system, or it's an item that goes into your regular recycling bin.
Interesting. Let me ask you too, but recycling rates in general, are you encouraged by the amount of plastic that's being recycled both in North America and in the world? Is that increasing, or is there a lot that needs to be done still with that? I know that they've been at fairly low, moderate levels for a long time, but are you seeing a spike at all in some of this?
We are seeing an increase, and in fact we have good data. Ameripen has generated a lot of data to show what effectively increases the recovery rate of all types of packaging materials, including plastics. One of the most important things we can do is to give people a large bin. So if we give people a 96-gallon rolling cart instead of a small 18-gallon tote bin, they'll increase their recycling by anywhere from 40% to 100% just by having the larger cart.
Just having a larger cart, they can put more items in, huh?
They can put more items in, and if they can put everything into one cart, it'll encourage them to start participating. Once they get in the habit of putting things in, they'll put more things in. So it grows exponentially once that happens.
I see. And getting into more communities, I imagine, too, and
getting into more
infiltrating that.
There are many communities here in the southeastern part of the United States that don't have good curbside programs. And so programs like the Closed Loop Fund and the Recycling Partnership are working with communities to try to implement improved curbside collection systems, because when people have easy access to recycling, whether it's for plastic or any other material, when they have easy access, they'll recycle more.
Right, makes sense. Well, you're at MP this week. Is there anything you look forward to seeing, or anything in the Dow booth you think might be of interest to that's showing off, that shows some of the innovations and trends going on in the packaging and the plastics industry?
Well, you said the key word there, and that's innovation.
Yes.
So NPE is really a key show for us and for the entire plastics industry to showcase their innovations. So over at the Dow booth, and I'm sure at many of the other booths here that I hope to see later today, we have lots of innovations on display, new technologies, new improvements in performance. And people think about resource consumption when they think of sustainability, but performance is equally as important. So when we come out with high performance materials that make cars lighter weight, or make buildings have better insulation, or make food last longer, all those performance enhancements are really driving the overall sustainability performance of the system. And we really need to look at the big picture in the system. I think NPE is a great place to look for that, because there's so many innovations on display here.
Absolutely. Anything at the Dow booth you're showing that's of interest?
Well, we'll be showing the video from our Energy Bag program, so you can come and watch. We have an 18-minute documentary video. It's also available on our website, dow.com/energybag.
Okay.
So we've got an 18-minute documentary, but we've also got a comprehensive report that's over 30 pages that has all the details of the program. So it says why we did it, how we worked with the partners, why collaboration was so important to make it successful. So all the key elements of the program along with the results. It's our goal that anybody can take this program and implement it in their community with the information that we've provided. So we want the rest of the plastics industry to join with us in promoting increased recovery of our materials. We really need a collective and collaborative effort to make this successful.
Sure.
It's not something that Dow can do by itself or that Ameripen can do alone.
Right.
It's really something that requires the whole industry. So we're here to share that information along with the innovations that we have in the different products that we offer, which we have on display as well, and we'll be happy to share those with anybody that comes by.
Yeah, absolutely. I know Dow was invested in conversion of waste to energy for quite a while anyway. Are there more efforts going underway in Europe or other places of the world in the U.S.? Are we catching up to what's going on elsewhere with some of this?
Well, there's lots of different systems in place around the globe. So different countries are ahead of others. So Northern Europe, for example, has a very high recovery rate, and they count both mechanical recycling and energy recovery as part of their recovery rate. We think that that's an important thing to do because it helps us understand how we extract the value from as much material as possible.
That's been going on for a few years already, hasn't it?
That's been going on for many years.
Yeah.
Japan is very far ahead. Singapore does a pretty good job. Korea does a pretty good job. But a lot of the developing countries in Asia and Latin America and soon in Africa really are going to have an issue with a lot of extra materials that are going into their system because their economies are growing and people are becoming more prosperous.
Sure.
When they become more prosperous, they use more plastics.
Absolutely.
And in fact, one of the things that makes it possible to have additional prosperity is the fact that we now have plastics. If they had to use more expensive materials instead of plastic, they wouldn't be able to have as much prosperity. So we're really contributing to the economic development of those areas, but we recognize that we do have an issue with making sure that we capture the value once the consumer's done with the item, whether it's packaging or anything else.
Absolutely. Well, best of luck with that, with the Energy Bag Pilot Program and some of the work underway there.
Thanks.
It's really interesting and could make a big difference for plastic that we perceive as not being that recyclable,
Right.
but now we can use it for something that's a great value to society. Jeff, I want to thank you for your interview today.
Thank you, Joe.
And joining us for Conversations with Plastics News, and we look forward to some of the work being done by Dow and by Ameripen. Thank you.